how to handle toxic family members in Christmas. I'm Kristin, I'm a research professor, and I'm also very interested in well-being and mental health and sustainability. And we also have Dawe with us today. Do you want to present yourself, Dawe?
Yeah, I'm a very broadly interested person. I also studied energy and environmental science, but I also really like psychology. How do people function? How do I function? And yeah, let's see where we can take it this time.
Yes.
So we were talking a bit about exploring Christmas, and a lot of people have difficult times with certain family members around Christmas. And how can we dive into that a bit? I don't know if you feel comfortable sharing some of the challenges you are often facing around Christmas with your family, and maybe we can go from there.
Yes, I face some challenges that I would describe as family members bullying me and talking down on me. So just have to pull myself together to just smile, grind my teeth, and then pretend like that's okay. Um, I sort of have to live through this during Christmas, like the way people are talking to you, and then to keep the peace and calm, you have to, swallow it all down, and it's a mental challenge, because normally I'm around people that are generous. They are thinking of my or like how they can. They're people that are trying to make you feel good. Whereas when I'm together with certain family members, it's like the opposite is the case. They're trying to push me down, drag me down, and talk to me in a derogatory way. And if I try to say I'm not comfortable with being talked to this way, they become aggressive and yell at me. So
So they just, instead of respecting your boundary, they just try to push you harder down to kind of maybe establish dominance. Or do you know if there's anything behind it? Like, do you know where they're coming from, what their feelings and needs are? And yeah, can I also ask, like, if you do set a boundary, what happens? And yeah, let's start there.
well, I can give one example. I've tried once to say, explain how I feel it. When you talk like this, and this I have experienced since like over 10 years or more, I feel sad. And then the response you get is, um, that is not true. Everybody loves me. So you're the one that misunderstands. I'm
Yeah,
a very
so
good person.
so they're basically gaslighting you. If you say you're sad, they say you're not sad. Is that what?
They are saying that I am implying that they are not a good person, not behaving correctly. Since I am like saying, it
Ah,
makes
okay.
me
So they're
frustrated when you are talking down on me this way, or when you are yelling at me this way, and then they say I don't do that. Everybody else says I'm a good person, or that I am a fantastic person.
okay. Yeah. So that does sound a bit like gaslighting. Like they don't really care about your experience. They just want to say that your experience isn't real because other people say that I'm a good person. So it's okay for me to talk down to you. And that means I'm still a good person. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, I've tried to figure out why we cannot have a conversation about this.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm asking myself, is this person behaving like this towards everyone? And then the person I would suppose would have no friends, because nobody wants to be treated like that.
Yeah.
Person does have friends, so then I'm like, okay, so she treats me that way, but not others. So
No.
I haven't actually figured it out. You know,
No, no, it can be sometimes very specific, general, yeah, how do you call it? Family dynamics. Like, a lot of old patterns that it's very easy to slip into. And if they get triggered and they start responding from their emotional brain and they trigger you, and then it's very easy to get into your limbic brain also then. And then you have two people kind of dysregulated. And yeah, that just sounds super uncomfortable. But it sounds also a bit sad. Like, I think a lot of people can recognize it. I had it at least a bit with some of my family members, that it was very easily to get into heated arguments because that was kind of a safe zone to connect, because it was maybe a very unhealthy one, but that was something apparently while growing up we had both learned to, at least this is a way how we can show affection to each other, even though it was in very kind of harsh discussions, because that was the only kind of method we learned. But then when I did a lot of kind of work on the Byron Katie, then I think during 1 or 2 years, while I shifted a lot of my own perspective, then suddenly that whole interaction started to change as well. But it's often difficult to say how these things work, because it's often a co-creation, right? They respond in a certain way that triggers us, so we go in a fight or flight, or maybe even a freeze or fawn, and then we don't react from our kind of rational brain necessarily. We also start to become triggered, and then you basically have this game where people are just responding out of pre-programmed systems from before, instead of people being present, people being regulated, people having control over their emotions and thoughts and what they're saying. But yeah, it is very uncomfortable though.
Yes, because at Christmas you have to deal with these people more than usual. Because my method have been to stay away,
Yeah,
because I'm not being listened to. It's not we can't have a conversation about doing things differently when other people say no, everything is good and you're the problem. If we can't have a conversation about how we are interacting, then we're not going to get anywhere. So, uh,
exactly.
but now when you're in Christmas, you have to see these people.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the topic of this podcast, because this episode, because you have different strategies in a way of how to deal with people. And I've been reflecting also on the what they say about showing vulnerability, being able to express what you struggle with is something that brings you closer. And my
Yeah.
experience is that the people that I have to deal with, they're very like defensive.
Yeah.
They don't have any problems, you know and they also talk down at me as if I was a child, like that they have to raise me and tell me how to behave. uh,
Yeah.
and that's very like you say, pushing my buttons. I'm a
Yeah.
grown-up person.
Yeah, of course.
I'm a
Yeah.
research professor. I
Yeah.
have friends. To talk to me in a way as if I was an 8-year-old that had a tantrum is sort of it's hard for me to just smile and nod, and of course I'm going to do what you say, and of course that's sort of what is asked of me, to just
And do you feel that they are regulated? Do you feel that they are coming from a calm place where they are in balance themselves? Or do you feel that they're coming from a very triggered space when they're interacting with you?
I think that the conversations is escalating in a way if
Yeah,
there is a disagreement, and then they will always be right, because it's not like it's a real conversation. It's not like you're listening to the one argument and the other, and then you find the best solution. It's more
no.
like somebody is deciding, and it's going to be that way.
And who is this person that is deciding? Because that sounds a bit narcissistic. Like, what I understood from the Tim Fletcher kind of education I have done is they say, like, narcissism is when a person in power in a family dynamic, so it could be a parent or it could be a boss, and they kind of abuse their position of power to get their needs met, while a good head or of the family or a good leader in a company, they kind of have the responsibility to take the feelings and needs of all people into account. While narcissism is usually they're going to abuse that position to have their needs met, and I don't care about other people's feelings and needs. I don't know if that is the case, or how would you feel?
I think that's describes it quite well. Even though I'm, I don't want to, I don't want to call other people narcissists, but it's more like I don't feel that there is any love, and not unconditional love, at least, because it's like you say, it's about have just this telling you what to do.
Yeah,
There's no. What do you feel about this? What could you think is a good solution? How do you feel in general? It's
yeah,
more. I am the uh, person that decides this, and shut up and behave.
yeah, yeah. But
Um,
that does sound like, and narcissism. Just be clear, like narcissism isn't like this is a bad person, that's a good person, but narcissism is, in a sense, an abuse of power, an abuse of authority by making it about their feelings and needs and not caring about other people's feelings and needs. And often the reason why people become narcissists or why they start to behave this way is because they deal with a lot of complex trauma. They often have a lot of trauma that they haven't processed themselves. Plus, there can be a lot of kind of hidden shame, guilt, anger, grief. Maybe there are a lot of difficult emotions that these people never kind of work through. They never learn to deal with kind of difficult emotions in a constructive way. So, and often Christmas is also a time where there can be a lot of other triggers, like maybe from previous years. Maybe we miss a person that died, recently or a couple of years back. And so it could be that a lot of these difficult emotions come up. And if people haven't dealt with that in a good way, then it can become very easy to kind of come from their emotional brain, their limbic brain, and simply are so involved with themselves that they don't feel there is space to care about the feelings and needs of other people. That doesn't make it okay, obviously, but at least it can explain a bit why these people are coming from the place they're coming from.
Yes. And it's also like you said about the dynamics in a family where you are less polite, or you're making less of an effort to be accommodating to people. And that might be true for me also, because I was like trying to be self-reflective, and I do, of course, have some of the same traits as the people from my family. For example,
Yeah.
I don't give in easily. I don't
Yeah.
like to be told what to do. I don't like to be controlled. Whereas these people, they are controlling.
Yeah.
But the reason why maybe that there's conflict is perhaps because, I don't know, maybe I'm a controlling person. Uh, at least I hate to be controlled.
Yeah.
This is in general. It's like, is it something that I hate? It's being controlled.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess
I've
there's a
even
good,
done research on control because I hate it so much.
yeah, I guess there's like good control and bad control. If people try to guide you into actions that create harmony and that are healthy and that are positive for yourself in a group dynamic, then theoretically there isn't something wrong with being
That's
controlled, I would
that's
say.
true.
But if it's control that goes against your interest or against the harmony of the group, and it's just people wanting to boss you around because of their fear, their anger, their in a sense dysregulation, then obviously it can be very unpleasant. Yeah.
Yes, because I think it's the last thing that's the case here. Actually, I've been trying to reflect on this, and I have a family with my grandmother and my grandfather. My grandfather was in the Second World War, and he was imprisoned in Poland,
Yeah.
in this German prison camp, and their relationship was very conflictual. My grandmother was very mean to my grandfather,
Yeah.
and there was always this conflict in the family. So all
Yeah.
the children are very aggressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a tendency in the family of not taking care of relations because they explode so much that, in the end, people start hating each other,
Yeah.
So I think there's some what do they call it in these spiritual milieus? They call it like it's coming from generations back with people that have not been working on their inner aggression,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
that makes a lot of sense. Like a
Yeah,
lot of these patterns are just kind of copy pasted, you know, like
yeah.
if children see that mom is super aggressive towards dad, but it's kind of working, why wouldn't they just copy paste that behavior? And obviously, it's not ideal, but if you get what you want out of it, and if the other person is willing to kind of be suppressed to that level, and then if you get a new generation, a lot of that, but obviously, it's not ideal and it's not fun. And it sounds to me there that, or at least what pops into my mind is that it could be really good to look at anger in itself, you know, like a lot of times we don't really learn to deal with anger in a healthy way. So what is anger? Why is there anger? How do we deal with anger? How do we deal with conflict in a healthy way? Because it is important if you kind of look at from the viewpoint that we try to meet each other's feelings and needs, then obviously aggression is a successful strategy, right? It's kind of the fight. It's the fight mode that a lot of animals use. And if you can simply subdue your enemy, then you kind of win. Let's put it that way. But in a family dynamic, obviously that's horribly toxic because you don't want to be pushed into this fight, flight, or fight and submit all the time. You basically want to have a conversation where you feel equal to the other person, where they are interested in your feelings and needs, you are interested in their feelings and needs, and you try to harmonize that so everybody can get their needs met in a healthy way, and everybody can feel seen and heard, and everybody can, in a sense, be authentic, and then you get a much more healthy dynamic. But yeah, I don't know, do you think there is an interest, because obviously you are very interested in this kind of stuff, right? Like, how does anger work? How can you have healthy conflict? Do you think that is something your family members might be interested in? Because often people simply never learn the tools to deal with this, so they're being kind of led by their limbic brain. Certain triggers get activated. They sometimes say that the first 25 years of our lives, we kind of create patterns of how we're going to behave. And after that, we basically mostly repeat the patterns we learned in those first 25 years, unless we actively start looking at this stuff, start processing this stuff, and learn healthier ways to interact with other people.
I actually heard, I don't know if this is maybe a generational thing. I heard this podcast about the non-contact tendency, where children are, starting to cut their contact with their parents because their parents are just yelling, and they are, they as they never considered that they had a responsibility to deal with their own psychology. They in as they have this role of mother or father, they should be respected just for having that role, and that is why
Yeah.
being what is being questioned now. So I don't know if this is like uh particular for me, or if it's the whole generation that have trauma from their background, and have no interest in or even maybe it didn't strike them that they had a responsibility to work on their own psychology. And I don't think that they are aware how damaging that negative energy and that aggression is to their surrounding, because they're dragging people down. You're
Yeah.
making the people around you depressed. And that's
Yeah.
what's the, I think there's a lack of awareness uh, of how your negativity and your aggression is making other people around you sick. The
Yeah, that makes
response,
total sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the response from the person is, if you can't take me as I am, just disappear. I don't want to talk to you if you just can't, acknowledge the way that I am. I am,
Yeah.
And
Yeah, but again,
then
that's very selfish in a way, because that just says like, I am who I am, I have my feelings and needs, I don't care about your feelings and needs. And if you can't take me, then I don't care about it. That's not a healthy way to interact with people normally.
but that, it would mean that would have to work on themselves, and that's super hard.
Yeah,
That's what
no,
they
it is,
don't
and you
want.
can't.
They don't want to do
No,
that.
no, the only thing you can influence is yourself. So you can kind of see if you can work on these issues, because I noticed that once I kind of I've had this a bit with my mother, for example. When we were growing up, my mother could be very dysregulated. So she could like start cursing, like really hard and loud. She could become emotionally super angry and kind of dominate, make everything about her through her anger. And she could even like physically lash out, like she could hit us. And that was super unsafe as a child, because suddenly you just don't feel the person that is supposed to be the safe person can suddenly get totally dysregulated and become a danger to your physical health and to your mental health and to your emotional health. And instead of the parent being a source of calm and inspiration, where you can go as a child to get regulated how it should be, suddenly you get dysregulated by your parent. They become a threat, and you kind of need to learn to focus where they are emotionally. So you need to start, in a sense, start to regulate them, which is like totally the opposite world of how it should be in a healthy situation.
Yeah.
But once I learned about more, okay, how does anger work? Like a lot of people learn to stuff their anger. They don't know what anger is. When they show it as a kid, maybe they got punished for it. So they learn to stuff their anger and they never learn to process it. And then I think that was totally the case with my mother when I read about kind of repressed, stuffed anger. And then the moment, if people have a lot of repressed anger inside of themselves, they're often not aware of it because they were kind of forced to push it down when they were pretty young. And in the case of my parents, they were both smoking a lot and drinking a significant amount, also to simply not have to confront all the feelings that they're suppressing. And then yeah, once people get activated, suddenly all that anger, this lava stream, the volcano burst. And I think in our generation, there is a lot more knowledge available about it. So we can learn how to regulate our brains. We know breath work, we know yoga, we know working out, we know other regulation and grounding techniques, while in the generation before us, they had like zero skills, zero information available, which doesn't mean that they shouldn't learn. Like I have one friend, and his father is really putting in the effort to learn these things, but obviously that's from person to person. And I think really what it is, like what can we do around Christmas, is try to understand and be as regulated as we can. And but also I think it is important to really set clear boundaries. Like, hey, if you're gonna behave this way towards me, I don't really want to be here because it's not pleasurable for me to interact with you if you're just gonna put me down. And then maybe you kind of need to confront that and withdraw a bit before this older generation kind of realizes, hey, wait a minute, maybe I should look a bit at myself as well. But obviously you can't control that.
Yeah, and like you said, maybe there are two ways of handling the aggressive parents. One way is like you say, you sort of become the buffer, and then you make sure that the parent will not fall into a rage, and you take the responsibility on you, and then you sort of maybe you get problems later because um sort of get bullied by people that are similar to your parents. I don't know. As for me, I have more like adopted the aggression. So
Yeah.
I am like I could say like the Alcoholic Anonymous. I'm an addict. I am an aggressive aggressive person. So I'll have
Yeah.
to I've after we met at this retreat, I have I mean, I'm maybe before, but at least after, I've started to work like primarily on my aggression, because I think that the aggression is disconnecting you from people. It
Yeah,
feels good. It feels good because you get it all out, but you don't know what sort of damage you're doing to your relationships. It's not a viable way.
no,
So when
I
I
totally agree.
no, but it feels really good to be angry. I love being angry, but I've just
Yeah,
realized that it's not something I can do because it's damaging the relations. I was also yelling at people and even my own children.
yeah,
I've sort of okay. And when I started working on my anger, then I've sort of discovered stress, you know? And then it's about, how to deal with that stress. And it's something I recognize in my own family also,
yeah,
extreme stress, inability to deal with the smallest thing. Like the lawnmower isn't working. It's like, what? You know?
fair
No
enough. Yeah,
ability to deal with that situation, you know?
yeah,
So it's just if you don't, you know, do something about yourself, it's just going to be so bad, so bad.
yeah,
And I can just see it in my family members how debilitating it becomes. So
yeah.
it's like
It sounds a bit to me that you have become aware sooner of the patterns and that you have started taking responsibility for it. And can I ask what helped you process this anger, or what were the insights that you feel actually helped you deal better with your own anger, with your own aggression?
I think I noticed some sort of disconnection with the people around me that I'm close to. And I
Yeah.
really dislike that emotion because I think it's the start of depression. And I am very afraid of depression because I was like I don't know if I was deeply depressed, but I was sort of at the brink of depression for a long, long, long period of time. I was just sad.
Yeah.
It was a extremely unhappy place to be. So like I just decided no way I'm going back there. So I did everything. So that was like when we met at this retreat. That was
Yeah. Yeah.
with
Yeah.
broken leg and everything. And you know
Yeah.
the story. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
share
Yeah.
it. I'm not gonna share it here. Maybe in a later
Yeah. Yeah.
episode
Yeah.
we can talk more about that, because then it's like how do you deal with your stress and your problems, and how
Yeah.
did we deal with it? I can talk about that another time. But I think that the thing that scared me was that this disconnection that I felt. And for me, well-being and happiness is linked to connection with other people.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because like in the spiritual space, we talk about interconnection and being one with everyone, like we are one, and that's what makes you happy.
Yeah.
That's what makes me happy. So being disconnected is like it's like the start of the journey into depression. And I'll do anything to avoid that.
Yeah.
So
No,
it's
that
why
makes
why I
sense.
did like that extreme thing that
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
like going to that retreat, and because I was just uncompromising about that. I am not
Yeah.
going there.
No, and that I think that's often what's needed, right? We see patterns in ourselves that we don't want to repeat, and we build some awareness, so we're looking for new solutions. And yeah, for me as well, I noticed at least that for me there was when I did some IFS, like internal family systems, on a lot of this inner earlier childhood stuff in the last kind of 15 weeks, but also a bit before. And I often found that what you say, like anger can cover up a lot of emotions. So if you're afraid, anger can help. If you're sad, anger can help. If you don't know what to do, anger can help. So anger can kind of cover up a lot of emotions. And I've also noticed that as a child, I was always, I think most children might be, but I was pretty sensitive. So it's very easy to pick up anger of other people as well. And then I noticed that once I got processing, I felt a lot of my own anger, but also a lot of fear. And then suddenly a lot of sadness would come up. And then suddenly a lot of loneliness, for example. And it
Mm.
was very interesting to see this kind of lasagna of feelings coming up. And once I processed one layer, then another layer became available, and then another layer, and then another layer. And then only after processing all those kind of difficult emotions, then suddenly there was some breathing room. Then suddenly there was space for relaxation. The fear fell away, the anger fell away. So suddenly there's relaxation, there's joy. I notice that I can get into my rational brain again because I'm getting out of this fight, flight, freeze, fawn mode. And then suddenly there's space again, there's room again. There are different ways to choose different interactions with people. But yeah, it's a process though.
I think I have experienced the same as you, but I must say that, I don't feel that I'm free of my like I know I still have that tendency to easily get angry still and
Yeah,
stressed. It's not like I'm cured of that, but then it's I discovered the same thing as you do, because below the anger lies fear, lies the feeling that people that you don't really have anyone that loves you, that you're not good enough, that um yes, and that's really hurting you if you listen, if you believe that.
yeah,
And then you have to start working on your thoughts, not believing in your thoughts, because if you're telling yourself no one loves me, I don't have friends, my family does not love me, um I'm not good enough for in my work or my relationship, I don't have the things that other people have, now you're talking yourself down.
yeah,
And one thing is, working, if you have to sort of, like they say, you have to meditate in a way, you have to like be able to um, observe your thoughts and just not believing in them. So what I have been doing, I've sort of been talking to myself in the mirror, using a lot of these techniques that you are available for you to sort of
yeah,
change your mindset, change your intention. Because if you don't, I have a tendency to become to get the paranoia. I'm thinking everyone's against me, and then I start
yeah,
like starting these negative dynamics. I very easily, if I'm in distressed, aggressive mode, I get this paranoia, and I'm starting to think everyone's against me.
yeah,
So I sort of I know the dynamic, and I have to stay away from that dynamic, because I know it does not lead to the connection that that I'm after.
yeah,
I love people. I really just want to be connected to people. So if I let fall in this trap of anger, stress, and then paranoia, it's going to lead me to onto that depressive path. So I
yeah.
have a
You're
lot
gonna
of
feel.
like toolkits to help me stay away from that. It fall into that trap
Yeah,
that
yeah,
takes
yeah.
me
No,
a
that's
bad
beautiful.
place to a bad
Yeah,
place. And then these family members drags me the wrong way,
that
drags me
makes.
into the hole,
Yeah.
and that's also what's they just it makes me so empty and sad inside. And I'm not a young person, I don't have time to waste the rest of my life on creating these bad feelings, you know
No, that makes total sense,
yeah.
and it kind of sounds that you, in a sense, are a step ahead of a lot of your family members. So, do you think that the feelings you had about, this sadness, maybe this fear of being alone, of abandonment, do you think that might be also behind your family members, that they might feel the same feelings, but where you have processed it because you took responsibility, you have taken up, different practices, you went through a couple of retreats to kind of gain this insight, but could it be that they in a sense aren't there yet?
um I will say three things. One thing
Yes.
is the biology. Even though we're in the same family, we can be very different from the like I've been very surprised that I am very much like one side of the family, just in both in the way that I look and in the way that I think and my character traits. I'm very distracted. Yeah, there are, I'm not going to go into that, but
No,
this
but
other part of
it's
the family, they have aspects that are, they're really, really, they have a warm heart, really, at the bottom of their heart in a way. But
yeah,
but they also have this stress, aggression, and lack of uh, ability to be self-reflective. At least it looks like that to me because they're very defensive with me. They're not being vulnerable. They're not sharing what their problems are. It's like they don't have a problem, and I should, pull myself together because. And they talk down at me like is I if I was a child, that they, is very provocative.
yeah, of course. Yeah,
Yeah,
nobody
yeah,
likes to be
yeah,
talked
yeah.
to that way.
No,
That makes so sense.
they talk to me in a very derogative way, and I just
Yeah.
have to swallow it and smile.
Yeah, or put a boundary and say bye.
Yeah, but in Christmas it's hard because you have to be around
Yeah,
these people. Normally, I just
fair.
try to be stay away
Mm,
and not spend too much time at the time because they drag me down.
yeah,
So I think, to be honest, I think these people are trying to work on themselves, but they struggle with the same parental negative dynamic that also drag them down. But this parental negativity drags them down more than me because they're more symbiotic with
yeah,
the parents. They're very loyal, more loyal, and they cannot say they have to like this loyalty has to be absolute, and it means they're more exposed to that negativity
yeah. That
in a
makes
way
sense.
because they are the parent.
Mm.
And
And they never kind of, they maybe not develop the awareness yet of what they're doing, and that how they're behaving is actually damaging to their relationships. I mean, at least in their relationship towards you.
yes, at least in the relationship towards me, and I don't know how they behave in a relationship with other people. Maybe it's like the family dynamic that you described. You just get into this pattern, and then it's just toxic and bad. But
Yeah.
what I would say is that I know that one of my, I don't want to say if it's a sister or brother, but
Yeah. Siblings, one
actually
of the siblings. Yeah.
wrote a letter to the parent that asked, could you please try to be less negative? Could you please do this for me?
Yeah.
And the answer was no. So I know I'm not the only one struggling.
No. Have
No.
you tried connecting with that person a bit about that? Because that can sometimes, I have that a lot with my sister. I mean, my sister and I have gone through a lot of, I mean, it's also a bit what you say. I recognize that. I think my sister and I have a very similar characteristics, while my brother and me are like, I think my sister and me both look a bit more like my father, where my brother looks a bit more like my mother in how do you call it, temperament, in how to navigate the world. And um and for me it could really help to kind of talk with my sibling about this, like, what have you experienced, how is it for you when a parent behaves in a certain way. It can be kind of a trauma bonding, I guess, no, but more like you can bond over the difficulty you have with it.
That could that I would love that to happen, but I think that the loyalty that the other siblings had toward the parent is extremely strong, and that would
Yeah,
mean breaking that loyalty.
yeah, yeah,
They
that
cannot
makes
do that
sense.
because
No.
there's a very strong loyalty, the bond that in my head, that's what drags them down because the parent is so negative that it affects their psychology also. So if they're going to be 100% loyal, never questioning anything that the parent does, and the parent is to the parent's excuse,
Yeah.
is not aware of this effect on the surroundings.
No, but then again, if it's, I mean, obviously you have a hard time, and if your one of your siblings wrote a letter like with a very specific request, like I need you to be less negative. And if they then simply say, I don't care, your needs don't matter to me, what matters are my feelings and needs, that would be another indication of kind of very strong narcissism. And again, narcissism is not bad, but it definitely feels like that parent doesn't have the capacity to kind of go outside of their own feelings and needs, probably because they still carry a lot of trauma, because they still carry a lot of suppressed anger, suppressed shame, suppressed other negative emotions that they don't know how to process in a healthy way. So they kind of explode and they just take it out on their surroundings.
But the parent does not know that this is damaging to the surroundings. I don't think the parent thinks that, I'm just the way I am, and you have to deal with the way I am. The
Yeah,
parent does not
but
understand that it's actually producing mental ill health
no,
to the people that surrounds you, and especially to the people that are very close to you.
yeah,
Yeah, either you have to like sort of be the light and have a good intention, love other people. Yeah, if you choose that, it's very difficult to be close to very, very emotionally close to that person, because that person, that parent, holds very hard, does not want to deal with the trauma.
yeah,
That's no, that's
yeah.
too
No,
hard.
that's
It's not
yeah,
going to do that. I am the way I am, and you have to deal with that.
yeah.
I'm
But
not
that's
going to look inside. No fucking way.
no, that's fair. But then it's up to the siblings, right? Then it's up to you and your sibling to look for boundaries. Or if you find it hard setting boundaries, why is it hard to set a boundaries? Is there a fear of abandonment towards this parent? Is there people pleasing going on towards this parent? Because you can get trauma bonded as well, where people that in a sense are abusive, a bit of Stockholm syndrome, where kind of if people in authority are kind of abusive, uh, this can trigger kind of a people pleasing response in people. And instead of them being able to choose for themselves and set a healthy boundary and say, hey, if you behave this way, it's bad for my mental health, I can't be with you, they basically break down their mental health. They even become more loyal to the parent at the cost of their own physical and mental health. And that's unfortunately a mechanism many people can move into as well.
I think you're completely right. And you have to actually choose to be symbiotic and very loyal to the negative person at the cost of your own depression. You're becoming depressed now. You're becoming negative. I've experienced this firsthand. When I
Yeah,
try to be loyal, when I try to, because the negative person does not accept the positivity. So you have to do what the person, you have to have the perspective of the person. And if you have the perspective of the person, you become depressed.
yeah, because probably they are depressed, right?
Yeah, you have to choose, and then you can't have that some symbiotic closeness to that person, and that person is refusing to do something about the problem that they have. You know,
Yeah,
they just
yeah,
it's too hard.
and you,
It's too hard.
and
I
you
just
exactly, and you can't, like, you never have control over what another person, you don't have control over another people's thoughts, about their feelings, about their actions, and the consequences those actions produce. But yeah, you do have control over your own regulation, your own thoughts, your own feelings, your own actions, and what those actions produce. But yeah, that can
I've
be
used
a
like
tough that can be a very difficult process to untangle in a sense, and also to make choices like, okay, this is what I can do, this is what I'm willing to do, this is what
it's
I'm not
very
willing to do.
hard to find out. I've used
Of
more
course.
than 10 years of my life to try to lighten up the help.
Yeah,
Help the person, inspire. Nothing works, and it's just draining, and you just get sad. But it feels also very cruel to just disappear and keep your distances.
yeah, yeah. What I had, because of, I mean, I noticed that I had this inner child part in me that was about 3 years old, And that was basically afraid that my mother would abandon it, which, I mean, if you're 3 years old, you're so dependent on your parents. So, and it was such a strong fear, but it made a choice like, oh, what if I just try to help her? What if I try to help her? So I'll be a good person, I'll be a people pleaser, and then she won't abandon me. And in a sense, that kind of worked. But what happens then is then that you try to help another person out of your own fear of being unsafe. So you kind of people please because you want to feel safe. But as long as you're doing that behavioral pattern, you can't really get to that emotion underneath it. So what you basically need to do is you need to stop that behavior for a while and you need to go inward. Like, what am I feeling inside of me? Like, is there anger? Is there sadness? Is there fear of abandonment? And if you can kind of be with that feeling, so that feeling can just allow it to be there and it can kind of dissipate, then suddenly it can be that the whole dynamic shifts
Mm,
because then you're no longer being programmed by this very old part of yourself.
mm. Wow, that's super. That's an super important topic that we should, we should talk about that in one whole episode because I
Yeah.
think, that's also an acknowledged method in psychology to actually feel the feeling, to feel the hurt instead of running away from the hurt. Because when you don't, it's probably what my parent is also not doing, and get addicted to bad food, to yelling, and to everything else because it hurts so much to look at those feelings, to be with those feelings, and that's what people do not do. So they destroy the environment, they destroy their own body, they destroy their relations, anything to just not feel those feelings.
Yeah. Yeah, this is why we don't like to feel painful stuff. So we suppress it or we distract ourselves from it. So I would say that like 90+% of all addictions come from difficult feelings. And often in the first 8 years, so it was difficult to process them. We get overwhelmed by certain feelings and we try to find a solution for it, but we don't really know what it is. So, but for example, people pleasing, and then that's a little behavior we start repeating. And unless we go back and change it and just feel the feeling underneath, we will just continue with the addiction
Mm.
because that's what addiction is. It is there to suppress this feeling. So every time I feel this sadness coming up, or this guilt, or this shame, I start to go for the cookie cabin, or I start to pour a glass of alcohol, or, whatever it can be.
And I've been asking myself, these distractions can be also not what you normally think about distractions as, like alcohol and addiction and stuff. I've been like questioning myself, did I travel so much? Is that the way to, is that this distraction just to not look at my inner feelings? I've been starting to, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm always I love being around people. Is that, because
Yeah,
I
no,
can't be
it's
alone? I don't know, yeah. You tell
no,
me.
it's
Now I start to question everything.
yeah, but obviously there's like some behaviors that are kind of, we are kind of social group animals. So some behaviors are healthier than others, right? To get our needs met. Like if we look at, we all have a certain set of needs. I think most people have a need to be in connection with other people. They need to be feel a sense of belonging, relationship. They have a desire to be authentically themselves and be accepted by the people around them, so they can show up as their own selves, so they don't need to wear masks. And and yeah, what I was told is if you feel a very difficult emotion, like an unpleasant emotion coming up, and then you feel like, oh, I need to help somebody, or oh, I want to travel, or oh, I want to do this, oh, like whatever the behavior is, just wait with that for 5 minutes.
Oh,
Just
that's good.
stay with the feeling and
Yeah.
go with the feeling and try to be with the feeling like it's a child. So be curious and compassionate towards it. Like, do you have to show me anything? Do you want to tell me anything? If there is there anything you need from me? Can I do anything for you? And if you approach the feeling in that way, yeah, for me, sometimes little movies come up, or maybe a lot of energy goes through the system. And I like to do TRE, tension and trauma release exercises. So you can shake your body a bit to get rid of the tension, or you can do breath work. For me, sometimes do some breath work really helps to kind of feel the energy go through my whole system and shake it out a little bit.
Yeah, that's super interesting. It's about debunking or just looking through our own bullshit, how to don't fool, how to not fool ourselves.
Yeah, and then
Because you
because
do the logic also, the way we rationalize about our behavior uh, after we did it also, it's just like we're rationalizing it, but it's just a way of regulating our emotions. So,
yeah,
it's like how to stop bullshitting yourself in a way.
yeah, yeah, no, totally. And I mean, uh, like maybe bullshitting is a bit of a negative word. Like we kind of created these patterns to survive, right? We had certain pressures growing up or even in our adult lives. We don't always know how to deal with them. So we find solutions. But those solutions can become problems later on in life. So something that might have worked for me, people pleasing worked, right? So if I was taking care of like scanning the emotions of my mother, and if only it worked 10 or 15% of the time, it meant I was 10 to 15% safer in general, which is huge. Like that's evolutionary scene. That's a successful strategy, right? But
In
if you
Christmas, that
then
can be very useful.
exactly, yeah. But then if you keep on people pleasing after that, and not by choice, but out of compulsion, because that program is still in your system to avoid feeling unsafe, then suddenly you're using a lot of energy, like, oh, I need to take care of this person's feelings. I need to take care of that person's feelings. While as a child, you're very dependent for your 12 needs or for your needs on this adult person. But now that you're an adult, you can take care of your own needs. So you actually don't, you often develop strategies or you have compulsive behaviors that are maladaptive for the current situation, but also the goal it's trying to achieve isn't needed anymore because now you're a grown adult. You can meet your own needs largely. And if this person can't meet that need, you can find another person that can meet that need.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's a bit of a change of thinking, and also it requires some experience with it so you can see how it works. And then in my experience, sometimes when I shifted things in myself, because you feel more grounded, you feel more regulated, and people can't push you as easily anymore, then sometimes that can have a positive effect on the family dynamic.
Mhm.
And sometimes it can have a positive effect on yourself that you're just more comfortable setting a boundary.
Do you think that people always will respect that when they're used to you not having boundaries and all of a sudden you're setting boundaries? Some
No, but you set boundaries for yourself, not for other people.
Yeah, but
So
sometimes the other people that are used to bullying you around and then now they can't, get angry.
yeah, but then that's okay. They are responsible for their feelings, and you're responsible to, in a sense, protect your own space.
Yeah.
Like if you, because in a sense, right? If you can choose, I either need to go to my family where I'm being disrespected by people that aren't willing to look at their own dysregulation, or I'll connect to some friends that where I can be myself, where I can have fun conversations. I mean, in a sense, you have a right to choose what meets your needs best, right? And obviously, you can find some compromise there, but
But if you're like, you have to sort of, as for family members, it's hard because they're your they're the ones that are closest to you. You've been with them the whole of your life, and it's difficult to sort of decide to never see them again, or just be very set
Yeah.
boundaries in a way that will break the relations even
Yeah,
in.
but boundaries are actually, and this is something what I liked when I learned it, like a boundary is actually an indication I care about this relationship with you enough that I'm setting a boundary.
Yeah,
Like I would like to be with you, but I can only do that if you talk to me in a respectful way. If you can do that, I can be with you because my mental health is more important to me than your desire to, uh,
yeah.
call me names when we're together. So I need to take care of my own needs, and you're a threat to my needs. However, I do like you, you're my family. So I would like to be with you, but you need to be respectful to me. Otherwise, I can't be there, which I want to. So boundaries, good boundaries are actually a mechanism to improve relationships and to make sure that you can have a healthy relationship with a person.
But it demands something from the other part party. It demands something from the person that you're related to, because if they insist on talking down to you, even
Yeah,
though
but
you were
then
setting the boundary, you have to sort of
you
get
need to
away.
enforce you yeah you need to enforce your boundary because
Yeah,
you need to show them that you're serious about it.
yeah,
And it doesn't come that you dislike them, it comes from you liking you enough to take care of what you
yeah.
need.
This is super important. I think this is super important for very many people that are in close relationships, be it marriage or with their parents, with their siblings, or whatnot. So we should really talk more about this in another
Yeah,
episode.
no,
But I
let's
would
do that.
like for a short period of time, be it only Christmas. Do you
Yeah.
have some like a list or some advice on how we could deal with people that are not uh, behaving in a respectful way? Like for myself, I've been thinking, okay, just swallow whatever it is and just leave early. I
Well,
don't
you could go for a lot of walks, go outside, regulate, maybe do some breath work together, do whatever keeps you regulated, and minimize exposure. Maybe try to avoid contact. But I think you can always say, you know what, I feel a bit agitated, or you say, I feel a bit strange. I think I'm gonna go out for a walk, and you just take a walk for 5 or 10 minutes
yeah.
and then you can regulate. I think that might be the best.
Yeah, that's it. That's good advice. And just keep maybe the interaction with these people as to as little as possible, maybe. I mean,
Exactly.
if you spend time and it's just negative, then it's not improving anything after all. So
No.
just trying to keep your own calm, even though people are talking to you in a way that is not acceptable, and then just go for a walk and just limit the time that you have to be with these people. Maybe that's like an advice for Christmas at least.
Let's keep it at that. And
Yeah.
otherwise, people can give their tips in the comments. Who knows?
Yeah. That would be great.
That
And for
might
me,
be good
it would be
even.
like just try to not give into that my own need to yell at people because I feel
Yeah,
that, that's my biggest
yeah, that's probably a
challenge.
good idea to bite your tongue and just say,
Yeah,
"Oh, I noticed that I'm getting activated. Let's take a walk. Let's get out of this situation so I can
yeah,
keep my cool."
yeah. Yeah, and we're
Oh,
super
thank you.
interested in we've covered a lot of topics today, and almost all of them deserve their own episode where we could dive more deeply into these topics that everyone have most people have experienced some similar situations or emotions. So yeah, we'd be very happy if someone would suggest something, or we'll have to come up with something ourselves for
Yeah,
the
let's uh,
episode.
let's continue the conversation another time.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay,
thanks.
thank you
Bye.
for now.